Good morning, everyone. This is Michael, and this is our triangles meditation in the Ask program. I regret that our music is not functioning this morning, so it will be one of those meditations which is voice only. The soul is called the triangle. We have the spiritual triad, we have the monad, they are all triangles. We also have the threefold personality, which essentially is composed of a triangle. And so the idea here is the infusion of the lesser triangle with which we are most accustomed within the personality, the infusion by the higher energies that come from the soul at first, light and goodwill. And eventually, when the time is right, and when we know something more about the divine will, we will have triangles of the will to good. This is not a difficult task, but it does require intensity of feeling, concentration. It requires that love and light flow forth to our fellow triangle members. And then when we speak the great invocation after visualizing our participation with various disciples like ourselves who wish to see an improved psychic atmosphere and an improved enactment of the divine plan, when this occurs, we do so with full heart and as much as possible in the light of the soul. So the science of invocation is at work here. It's one of the great and coming sciences of the new age. And Aquarius, well, all the air signs really, they have something about them which suggests the triplicity. Aquarius itself is partially a third ray sign, and it is counting clockwise from Aries, the third sign, just as Gemini is the third sign counting counterclockwise in the normal mode of progression of the astrological signs. And then Libra itself is a great triangle distributing the third ray. So although the work seems simple, and it is, the Tibetan has said, this is a work which must go on. This work must go on. And we have to take him to heart. He says it's very, very dear to his heart. And if you think of it, he's working from the atomic plane, which is ruled by the sign Libra, and the idea of the triple flower is there found. So eventually the will to good will stream through these triangles along with love as goodwill, goodwill being love in action, and there will be the light which will reveal the lighted substratum of all the forms which at the moment seem opaque, and through the triangles we will live in a more lighted world. So let's simply get into this simple meditation with which we are familiar. Of course, you know, when you have your triangles, you do this every day, and it doesn't have to take long. It's simply a question of the feeling, the applied will, as much as we know it, and the use of the great invocation. The day of the great invocation has hardly ended. In a way, it's just beginning. When one looks at all the glamorous nonsense that is overtaking the, well, rather thoughtless public at the moment, one realizes that the great invocation must become far more widely distributed. So let us begin, and breathing in the white light a few times. And we sound the Om 3 times, once for each aspect of the personality. We must be receptive to the inner light, eventually producing a state of translucence and finally of transparency. And maybe we will discover with the Kabbalistic thinkers that the entire universe is light, condensed light. And now we follow the Tibetan's instructions. He was giving these instructions to quite a high disciple, a certain Jesuit priest, Jean Monchart. He was killed by the Nazis during the war. The Tibetans saw this ahead and tried to introduce him to this world of light that he would be entering. But it has broad applicability to our invocationary efforts. So he says, I would ask you for a few minutes each morning, prior to doing the group meditation, to rest quietly back in your chair or bed and, closing your eyes, link up with your soul and me, your friend. You will thus create a triangle of light between your soul your head center, and myself. Fix and hold this triangle firmly in your consciousness through the power of the creative imagination. See it as a solid triangle of light, not just as an outline, and visualize the base of the triangle on the mental plane, and that would be the higher mental plane, where Master DK works and where dwells and works your soul. The lower point, or apex, touches the top of your head, and contact is imaginatively made with the Master and with the angel of the presence. As much of the solar angel as can be infused into the causal body, the egoic lotus. And then see pouring down via the triangle a stream of light, golden in color and not white. It is more light orange than white. And see this light flooding your whole body. And when you have visualized this as perfectly as possible, then rest back in that light and bathe in it as you would bathe in the waters of the sea. See it permeating every part of your physical equipment, and let it do its work without your having any definite ideas as to what should be accomplished. And he tells us, the rest of the activity is in my hands, and you can safely leave it to me. This exercise will aid you in handling your life problem and your service until such time as you enter into that light wherein consciousness awakens free from the bonds of flesh. The blessings of your co-disciples are upon you, and yours on them. Now, after having reached a poised stage, holding the consciousness steadily in the mind and not in the head, contact the spiritual triplicity, which is that which hovers above the square and radiates the energy of light into this waiting field of thought. And we say together the mantram of the will. In the center of the will of God I stand. Naught shall deflect my will from His. I implement that will through love. I turn towards the field of service. I, the triangle divine, work out that will within the square and serve my fellow men. And so we identify not only as the soul-infusing personality, but actually as much as possible focus within the causal body, the egoic lotus, the first triangle divine. Now we focus on our own triangle or triangles, realizing that energy follows thought, and we become aware of how the triangles, every time they are activated, become etherically more living, more able to transmit the energies of the soul whenever we contact our triangle members. So we'll take some moments here and name our fellow triangle members as we transmit the goodwill, the light and the goodwill between us. So let us enter into the silence as we do that. So in general, we visualize the flow of love and goodwill between you and your triangle members, and we realize that the whole triangle's work is rooted in one of the Buddhas of activity, and especially the one who works through love, intelligently applied in humanity. And we feel this second ray energy and how it changes the square-like etheric field into triangular formation, so characteristic of the sacred planets, and our planet is on the way from the square to the triangle. And so from our little network of triangles, whether it's one or more, into the worldwide network, and finally rooted in Shambhala, with the heart at the center of it all, either the Christ or Sanat Kumara, we participate in this broad circulation It really is, in a way, the energy of the divine plan moving from the non-sacred square to the sacred triangle. And making possible, behind the scenes, the exoteric work of the men and women of goodwill, helping them to make progress. It is a real esoteric method, as simple as it may seem. So we carry with us this sense a vivid sense of being linked to the wider triangles network, and even to the source in Shambhala. And we realize that in times of emergency, this network can be activated. The Buddhas of activity will see to that and can ameliorate the situation which arises within humanity. So it's a planetary service, really. And worthy of our attention, however brief, every day. The triangles are invocative. And they depend for their effectiveness upon the depth of feeling in the one case and the strength of the will in the other with which they are created. Again, so close to the Tibetan's heart. Let us then together sound the great invocation. as we think of the triangle's network and our participation within it. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. So we visualize the global network of golden triangles covering the entire planet, uniting human beings, communities, nations, continents, and carrying the energy of the higher divine triangles. It's a great living spiritual organism, substanding constantly world affairs, and we see it growing into an ever more vital reality. It will, by the very force of its interior life, eventually externalize itself. And we can visualize at least 100,000 living triangles functioning within the square-like etheric field of earth, transmuting it into triangles, transforming. And one day, the appearance of a sacred planet, inwardly sacred already, we are told, but outwardly sacred as well, and humanity and the various kingdoms of nature redeemed. that that's the project, to see to the redemption of humanity, to do our little part. Now we sound the Om 3 times, imagining light-filled, love-filled vehicles in the personality. We thank you, friends, for your participation. By tomorrow I should have the music fixed where appropriate, and we meditate in the morning on the reappearance of the Christ. This evening at 5 p.m. GMT, we continue with the science of triangles, and we're working, I think, on the 4th ray triangle of Taurus, Scorpio, and Sagittarius, and looking at the ways that those particular condensations of constellational energy transmit the 4th ray, humanity's ray, in so many ways into our own kingdom and our creative hierarchy. The hierarchy of initiates, as it is called, either the 4th creative hierarchy or the 9th, depending on how we are counting. So we'll get more into the technicalities. It's a webinar on GoToWebinar program. So we certainly invite you to form triangles wherever it seems to be indicated, and sometimes you'll just get the feeling of how you should do that, and then you approach the people involved and take the initiative, and usually there is a positive response, I would say, almost always. And the work of the Blue Rose Sisterhood, well, it has brothers too, of course. We're all of us giving birth to the Christ and watching the Christ consciousness grow. We invite you to participate in those activities, building the chalice for the Christ consciousness, especially to be celebrated in the year 2025, when the great conclave will occur. If you want to have deep study, the Moria Federation is open, and it can accommodate the level of intensity with which you wish to pursue these things, starting with the courses on meditation and courses on the microcosm, and finally on the macrocosm. A number of years of study are possible for you, in depth. All of this part of the University of the 7 Rays and the great ray science and the science of esoteric astrology, we try to bring them forward so that humanity can have a new way of understanding itself. And a little music too. So, thank you, friends, and let's persist, because the esoteric work we do, though unseen, except from the inner worlds, and maybe for the effects that it has upon our character and our service, is extremely necessary, especially in these days of glamorous attack prior to the great conclave of 2025. So lots of love and many blessings from Tuya and myself, and from the entire communications team. And we'll be working with you during every week as much as possible, and proceeding with this inner esoteric work. So, until this evening for some, have a beautiful day or evening or night or whatever it is for you, and we'll be back in, less than 12 hours. Bye-bye for now.